app and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, where you are listening. You're watching and listening on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as facebook.com/livenowdt, and appreciate you being here no matter how you're tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Thank you so much. And if you're tuning in on one of our archives in the shows that are there for you all throughout the world all the time, you can get in touch with us by going to any one of these by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, YouTube, MixLR, Podbean, and more. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, so make sure you check us out there. I'm so happy to be here with you inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You know that Cafe Kubal is all throughout our community on 3501 James Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street, 208 North Townsend Street, the home of Kubal Co-works, where you can rent out space for your business. You can go to the podcasting headquarters, have video and audio edited, as well as have your own office and meeting area. So for a lot of us that are working at home, you can now find a home away from home at Kubal Co-works. So get in touch with them by going to 208 North Townsend Street. And when you grab your coffee or your tea or your sandwich, whatever you want to get, your chocolate chip banana bread, you can also talk to them about renting out some space as well. And those are all in Syracuse, as well as inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse to find Cafe Kubal, and out in Manlius on 343 Fayette Street in the giant behemoth of a brown-striped building, and at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse, their drive-through location. So make sure you head out to Cafe Kubal today. I will be at Cafe Kubal live tomorrow. Every single month, I broadcast live from a Cafe Kubal location near you. This month, we're going to be at 401 South Salina Street in downtown Syracuse, broadcasting live with Tortora Squared, as my cousin Fran Tortora, fresh off of her official signing with the Stony Brook Seawolves, she will be going there for Division I women's lacrosse, and her and I have talked about this for a long time. She committed a while back. She committed pre-pandemic, and I have the opportunity to now speak with her after she has signed her official letter. So Fran will be joining me for a signing special / Christmas special / family special, and you got to come out and see it. 401 South Salina Street. Even if you come out just to grab a coffee for a second, Fran and I are going to be there having some fun at Cafe Kubal, and we can't wait to get in the holiday spirit and celebrate her incredible signing from her hard work. So hard work pays off. I'm proud of Fran, and I'm excited to have her on the broadcast tomorrow, so make sure you pay attention to that. We have two awesome guests coming on to the show today. I'm ecstatic about the opportunity that we have this morning to start off this week in December. I can't believe this is the first full week of December, because it's December 6th, and last week it started on the first was on a Wednesday. So first full week of December, we have a fantastic show getting started. We're going to talk with Dave Walker about Syracuse then and now in the world of football. We're also going to get his thoughts on if he would ever come back, his current work of coaching coaches, which is what he's doing now, as well as his history of coaching at Syracuse after playing at Syracuse, coaching at Pittsburgh, and then moving on to the NFL to coach with the Colts and the Detroit Lions. So we'll get to all of that and have a lot of fun with it. And of course, all throughout this week and throughout this month, I'll be celebrating the college football playoff, doing it right, baby. And all of these things we said about Cincinnati, it came through. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I'm looking forward to it. So happy for Cincinnati. We'll discuss that as we go throughout the week here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Very, very excited for the Cincinnati Bearcats getting into the college football playoffs. So we'll do a little thing today, and make sure you stay close to our social media at WakeUpCallDT on Facebook, at CallDT on Twitter, and at WakeUpCall_DT on Instagram, because I'm going to be putting up a bunch of things. I took a bunch of videos, got a bunch of awesome shots, and a lot of great stuff, a lot of great pictures and everything to capture Cincinnati winning the American Athletic Championship game, which aided in getting them to the college football playoff. I was there on site, on location, at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I cannot wait to share that with you. So make sure you stay close to our social media, because I have a lot of great stuff coming up with that. So speaking of coming up, we have Tony Hoffman coming up here on the line, so we're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, he will be with us, and I'm ecstatic to talk with him about a very inspirational way to start off your week right after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, as well as on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, live internet streaming radio all throughout the world, as well as on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. So appreciate you being here inside of the Cafe Cabal studios, and I'm honored to have Tony Hoffman back here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Was with us a couple of years ago, and he is back here today to speak on his journey through sports stardom, mental health struggles, substance use disorder, and homelessness, all the way to coaching in the 2016 Rio Olympics, a success story of knowing what it was like to have fame and then lose it, kind of lose yourself, and then find your way back in an even better way to what he's doing now with starting his own rehab, as well as aiding those in prison by going out on a book tour to hopefully help people in prison all throughout the United States of America. So with that being said, let's bring in the very inspirational Tony Hoffman. Tony, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me. I know it's been a while, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, and Tony, I'm happy to have you back here. I had the opportunity to hear you speak a couple of years ago when you came up to Syracuse, and, kind of just stumbled upon it and walked in and was just listening to you and felt the need to come up and talk with you after that broadcast. I mean, it's been a couple of years, and obviously in the middle of us talking last time, there's been a pandemic. So how have you kind of navigated the waters of these last couple of years?
Yeah, so obviously it was pretty devastating for my work, and not a lot of people switched to virtual. Schools and healthcare did not really switch over to a full virtual platform for stuff like what I do with public speaking. And so it really gave me a lot of time, maybe more time than I thought I ever wanted. And I really had to sit down and decide what I was going to do at that time. And I had already started working on my book. And so after 2 weeks had passed, I realized this was going to be a lot longer than 2 weeks. I said, you know what? I need to use this time to finish my book, because I had started getting so busy from speaking that it would have been really hard to finish my book with the amount of time that I was spending on the road, because you're just so tired when you're on the road and speaking as much as I had been prior to the pandemic. So I used that time to finish out my book, and relocated from California to Dallas, Texas. Made a move that was really good for my personal self. And that's what I've been doing. So, and then laying the groundwork for some of these exciting things, like my rehab and the book signing tour, now that the pandemic restrictions are starting to lighten up.
So when you look at that, like you said, in the world of public speaking, that you really don't, when something like that happens, there's no plan. And if somebody doesn't kind of open the doorway and say, hey, we're going to do this or we're going to do that, we don't really see anything come from this. And if they're not going to go virtual, then, it's kind of puts you into a corner. When you were in that corner, you've been in a corner before. You've kind of painted yourself in one before and had to get your way out of it. So when this pandemic, something out of your control, painted you into a corner, did you go back to past time for yourself and say, hey, listen, I've been here, I've been in the corner, I didn't know where to turn next, and I had to figure it out? Did going through what you went through in your history help you to get through the pandemic and continue to stay top of mind and to do things to not only help your career but help yourself?
100%. In fact, I got to, like I said, they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I slept a lot because I was just thinking, I'm going to catch up on my sleep. And then got to like 3-4 weeks, I was really starting to sleep more than I'd ever slept. And I had to catch myself and say, you know what? This has got to change. And I went right back to what I started doing when I was in my prison cell. Was I started writing down my days again, setting up a routine that I was going to utilize each day. So I had a structured routine that I was going to discipline myself to. And that was something that I had to learn while I was in prison. But I think really the gift was my ability to see that what I did when I was in prison to build this structured routine and being disciplined to it was something I needed to do and had the ability to do as a result of my past in the moment when the pandemic was happening. So it was absolutely a transferable skill that I developed to begin the change of my life. And I used it again when the pandemic hit to just say, you know what, this is what I got to do to ride this out. And I know a lot of people struggled, especially with the substance use arena and the mental health arena. And I think a big part of it was once you lose your resources and once you lose meetings, once you lose whatever is connecting you to the world, what skill do you use to sustain yourself through that period, right? Do you have the mental fortitude to set something up new, even though it's not what you were doing before, and understand that whatever it is that you're setting up is only going to be temporary, but it carries you through this moment, and it also is going to sharpen something about your blade. And that at the end, you'll have a sharper blade and you'll have new skills. A lot of people, I think, didn't have that skill set to be able to structure something new. And the disconnection from people really set them back in their mental health, and it caused them to stumble. For me, I was fortunate enough to have that skill set that I transferred right into the pandemic.
Speaking here with Tony Hoffman this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora about his inspirational story and what he has been able to do in his own life, and then to pay that forward. In a unique way, this pandemic almost creates even more of an opportunity for you to help others, because the last 2 years have affected mental health, and we've lost some people to substance use, and we've seen that people were kind of caught at home. And if they were addicted to something and they were left to kind of just be by themselves, we saw that there was overdosing that was happening here during the pandemic, a lot of mental health issues. Athletes are now coming out and speaking about this, which they really hadn't done publicly before. So in a very unique way, this pandemic has given you, I would say, more work to do and more people to help, because it's now put mental health and substance use to the forefront. And now more than ever, I think people have kind of had to be honest with themselves, which creates an opportunity for you and your message, I think, to be even greater through all of this.
Yeah, it's something that I'm going to find out more next year with the pandemic restrictions becoming lighter. My schedule's already kind of getting really busy. It's unfortunate that I think that that's what's going to happen, is I'm going to be busier than I've ever been in the past as a result of kind of what this echo this pandemic and these lockdowns created in terms of like the mental health echo, or the people, the crying out from the people, and just everything that's been multiplied as a result of the disconnection. So, you know what? I'm grateful that I'm in a place where I can be used and I can go out and I can really speak about what's helped me and gotten me through my struggles to help other people get through their struggles. So, we'll see how everything looks. But it does look like I'm going to end up being more busy as a result of the pandemic.
And Tony, for you, when you go through this, for some that don't know your story, you had that stardom, you had that fame, you have the spotlight on you, you have good things coming to you materialistically, you have, people paying attention to you. In the world we live in today, where social media is such a center for people to kind of like ask people's permission for stuff and find themselves, and to be fake, just to see people that, might take a picture in front of a boat and say, look at my new yacht, and they're really just walking on a pier in Rhode Island. When we see a world that's kind of getting caught up in wanting to be in the spotlight, needing somebody to tell them that they're great, you've already been through this and you know the dark side of it. What's your advice to people that are living in that world right now that feel like they have to fake it to make it, that they have to pretend that they're rich, and that they're, essentially the people that are going to social media on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, that are asking people's permission to do things or asking for people to like them?
Yeah. It's a struggle of validation, right? I tell kids all the time, in my day, we didn't have TikTok. In my day, we didn't have Facebook and Instagram or Twitter. And we still found ourselves comparing ourselves to other people, but we couldn't do it beyond the TV screen, or we couldn't do it beyond the classroom or the campus that we were on, right? We visually had to see them at school in person or on TV. And so the comparing that we did with others wasn't as extreme, but we still had that same effect. But nowadays, you have so many things that you can do and so many facades that you can create, that individuals will get on social media and they'll start looking at what other people have, and we start comparing ourselves. And what I tell people is we always compare other people's lives and we put them in a place that's better than us. We look at relationships on social media and we look, man, why isn't my relationship as good as theirs? Why are they so happy? Why are they always traveling and so happy? We don't know that they're always happy. That's the thing. But when we put ourselves in a position where we will compare, almost always we will tell ourselves that their position is better. Why is their job? They seem to love their job so much more than me. Like they're always posting their job, but we don't know that they're not going home every day and saying, man, I hate my job. They may just be posting their job every day and making it look like they like their job. So you look at them and you validate them through some kind of interactions you have with their content. And it's just this really dangerous, slippery slope that thankfully, because of my past and the work that I've done, I've been able to put myself in this situation where I've learned that life is an inward journey. And that if social media and your job and your relationship is something that you're playing in a way of like chess, if you're trying to move these pieces in a way that you can win the game and that you can be happy as a result of all of these external pieces that you put in certain places, you're going to find that the more pieces you move, the more unhappy that you get, because that's not what life is about. Life is about finding your true self, what makes you happy, what you're good at, and giving that to the world. Simple as that. I won't try and venture any further than that. The only thing I care about is what I'm good at, how I can give it to the world, what I truly like, and doing those things. If I do those three things, I find myself to be happier than I've ever been. My life is not perfect. I'm like anybody else. I have waves of depression. I have waves of anxiety. I have waves of doubt. I have waves of fear. But for me, it's really about those three things. And those three things, if I can focus there, the boat doesn't rock as much. I get away from needing social media. I get away from needing to post things that I have or things that I'm buying. And I'll unfollow people that are like that. If people give me anxiety when I follow, I get rid of them. That's something I think a lot of people struggle with is we'll follow people. We we don't like, because there's something about them that we see that keeps us engaged, but we're not recognizing that it's actually not. It's not good for our mental health to be following these individuals.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a ton of great points. Speaking here with Tony Hoffman, a motivational speaker who has his own story of everything he's went through, from sports stardom to mental health to substance use disorder to homelessness, all the way back to the Olympics and to what he's doing now with his own rehab coming, as well as working on his book and getting that book out there to you and to the prisons across the United States and to speak to people across the United States. Tony, you just said you can unfollow. I think that people don't, they get anxiety over that. I can't unfollow somebody. What if they see it? And so I think we live in a world where people are afraid to unfollow. They're afraid to block. I've had to do that. I've had people that, try to destroy your mental health, try to attack you, try to constantly bully you and bait you into something. And I've had to block people. And then they get mad and they, act crazy. And how could you block me? And then they keep going farther. And, I think we live in a world where not only are we asking other people's permission, but we're kind of at the mercy of other people. And we forget that nobody has power over you that you don't give them. And so many times we do that. We give power. Like, we can't block them. They'll get mad. We can't unfollow them. They'll be upset. What if they say something about us? What if they do something about us? I think what we need to realize in life is it's okay to block out. When a fly is in your face, you swat it away. But we don't do that on social media. We don't say, you know what? I need this thing out of my face. I need it out of my vision. We are essentially asking people's permission, not just to live our lives, not just, do you like this? Do you like this dress I have on? Do you like this look I have? But we're also essentially at their mercy. And we don't understand that, again, nobody has the power to control us unless we give them that power.
Yep. And sometimes I think that these connections that we have on social media are built on a fantasy that we've created for that individual, despite us not liking that individual, right? As we see what they're doing and we fantasize about how that could be us, but we hate the way that they display themselves in that situation, when in reality, everything about what they're doing and what they have and how they're doing it is a fantasy that we've created, especially if we don't know them.
Yeah.
And it's like you're living in a false reality, right? You're living in a world of emotions that are telling you what is the truth about this person. And if you don't know this person, what you're feeling is not the truth. They're just feelings that you're having, and you're allowing them to navigate your daily life, and you're allowing them to navigate your emotional balance. And it really rocks the boat. And that's why I just got to a point where there were certain things that I wanted to follow and try and understand. And so I would let myself be uncomfortable as I was trying to learn different perspectives. And then there's individuals where I'm just like, gotta go. And then I'd start adding more individuals like David Goggins or Gary Vee or Andy Frisella, or individuals that are positive. There's tons of them out there that you could follow that only speak on positive things. They're trying to lift you up. They're trying to teach you how to be better. They're trying to bring you emotional awareness. The holistic psychologist is absolutely amazing on Instagram. The information that she provides to her followers are just freaking amazing. And it's like, the more I follow those individuals, the more I find that the boat rocks less, and that I see myself growing because I'm engaging with content that's made to build people up, instead of separating individuals through jealousy and envy and hatred and anger and all of these different emotions that really just bring us down as humans.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, again, it's taking control. It's saying, this is what I want to put into my life, what I want to put into my body, what I want to put into my heart, my soul, my mind. I think one of the biggest things, especially in America, that I'm sure you talk about and that you deal with, that you have dealt with, and that you continue to answer questions about, either, through what you've already set up to speak about or afterwards when somebody comes up to you, is that we live in this world where we genuinely feel like everybody else is running our lives, and that we allow them to. We allow people to take control of, what we should do. And you said something incredible. You said we always think that other people's lives are better. We never fantasize about other people's lives as worse. We always think about them and say, oh, wow, that's better. It's incredible to me how it's so easy for our brain to go negative toward us and positive toward somebody else. How do you flip that switch? How do you not, and I don't want to say be negative toward other people, positive toward you. How do you flip the switch on not thinking that your life is so bad? How do you start thinking positively about yourself? Because I think it's so easy for us to always look across the aisle or look over the fence. What can we do to start turning around, looking inside our own home and saying, hey, if we don't like this, we got to change this, and start loving ourselves up? How do we change the game on positive thinking?
For me, it's just been focusing on myself and the way I operate and the things that I need to do. From an athletics standpoint, if I'm a shortstop and I'm watching another shortstop play their game, and their game is completely different than mine and my movements and structure as a shortstop, and I'm constantly trying to figure out how to do it their way, I'm completely missing how I can do it my way. And so I stopped looking at other individuals for the blueprint of how to be me. And I just started looking into how to be me and how to be happy for everybody else. I don't want to learn from, and there's obviously a gray area, right? I don't want to watch somebody else for me to figure out how to do what I need to do. I want to just be happy for that person and what they're doing and being able to do what they're able to do. I just want to focus on the things I need. And the things that I need, I'll be taught through my mistakes, through my victories, through my times of indifference, like a pandemic when there's not really anything happening. And so I stopped looking outward and I just started looking inward. And once I started looking inward, then I started realizing that anytime I go into a mode where I see somebody else, if it's not something I want personally for my life, then I just don't involve myself with it at all. If I see somebody that's on vacations all the time, do I think it's suspect and this, that, and the other? Sure, but I don't let myself get into this jealousy and envy and, oh man, their life is so great. I just say, you know what, as long as they're happy, I think that's awesome. And I go right back to me.
Yeah.
Because I know what happens if I go into this meta world, which we're going to find out a lot about in the next 20 years, this metaverse of these individuals have such an amazing life and start fantasizing about how cool their life is when I know nothing about it. As long as they're happy, bro, I'm good. I have my own work and my own things that I'm assigned to, and I have to sharpen my iron and my skill set to make sure that my journey and my world is operating at full tilt or near full tilt.
Yeah, and you said something great. People ask me, "Oh, do you pay attention what this person says about you? Do you pay attention about this? Do you watch this show? Do you do this? Do you do that?" And I always say no. And they say, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm too busy. I'm living my dreams. If I'm too busy living my dreams, I don't have time to sit there and say, what did that broadcaster say? What did that broadcaster? What did he do? What did she do? What did he do? What did she do?" Because to me, if you're happy and you're living your life and you're working hard and you're working smart, you know this, Tony, I know this. I don't have the time. I literally did a bunch of shows this past week, got on a plane early in the morning, flew down to Cincinnati, covered the Bearcats game, flew back home yesterday, back on the air today. I mean, it's when you do things like that and when you kind of live in that world where you say, hey, I'm spending 24 hours here, then I'm here, then I'm going over there. If you're really happy and you really love what you do, you don't have time to worry about everybody else in the sense of living in fear. And so I think kind of the best combatant of your own mind and negativity and anxiety and worrying is to be so dedicated to what you love and dedicated to your craft and do what you love and love what you do, because when you do that, you really run out of time to live in fear.
And I will say this, if you're filled with anxiety, if you're unhappy, if you're struggling with depression, if you're looking at all these other people and you're going, man, their lives are so much better than mine, it doesn't have to be that way. Those emotions are there to tell you that changes need to be made.
Yeah.
Those emotions are not there to tell you that you lack value, that you can't have what other people have, and that your life is going to be this repetitive process of negativity. It doesn't have to be that way. And I know this because that's how my life was. Every day I hated life. Every day I hated myself. Every day seemed to be a missed opportunity. And every day seemed to be this me stepping up to the plate, swinging and missing, and going back to the dugout going, it's never going to happen for me. And then I would watch other people get up to the plate, and I'd watch them just easily connect with the ball and get on base or send it over the fence and score points. And I would think to myself, why is it that everybody else can score points and I can't? What I didn't realize is that I put myself in a mental position where the only thing I was willing to focus on was negative things. I was only willing to focus on what other people were doing. And so I never spent the time in between games to practice on my swing. I never spent the time in between games to study different pitchers. So I knew what to do when I was stepping up to the plate. Every day I was filled with negativity until I made a decision. I'm not going to live my life like this anymore. It sucks. This is just not the way I want to live my life anymore. And so I started to rebuild my life one small choice at a time. I started to see things like brushing my teeth and making my bed and organizing my stuff as a victory. That was a victory for me. Like, I was so stuck in a rut that when I got to prison, a victory for me was brushing my teeth, making my bed, and organizing my stuff. But you know what? Learning how to see those small things as victories has allowed me to understand how big a victory it is to get an email invitation to do a TED Talk, or how big of a victory it is for somebody to say, we want to pay you to speak, or how big of a victory it is for me to be able to sit down with somebody and explain to them, I have a dream, and I think this dream is going to make a really big impact. And that person even tell me, I'd like to help or be some kind of tool for you to carry out that dream. Whether they follow through or not, it's a victory that I got to sit down with somebody. And that really was just the result of gratitude, right? I had to get grateful for the really small things so I could understand when big things were happening, how to be extremely grateful, and how to understand that, one, life isn't perfect, but if I just focus on the positive things, the gratitude will carry me through. And over time, my life started to change. Over time, I got up to bat and I started getting on base. And over time, I found that once you get on base once and twice and 3 times and 10 times and 20 times, this thing called momentum takes over and you start batting above 500, right? You start becoming one of the better hitters in the league because you've built this momentum. You've built this streak of positivity, of gratitude, of hard work, of discipline and structure and routine. And points just become who you are as a result of what you've been training to do when the games aren't being played.
It's very compelling and special to look at your life, Tony, everything that you've been saying, and to realize the fact that you thought, hey, how come when I go up to bat, I keep missing and everybody else is connecting with the ball, and then you're not practicing in the batting cages and you're not trying to get better and get right? In a very unique way, and I have a strong faith. I know some people out there do, some people don't. I respect everybody. I have a strong faith in God. When I look at my life and I look at what you're saying, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, maybe God was looking down at you saying, you're trying to swing and you're trying to connect in this sport here, but I need you on a field somewhere else. I need you in a court somewhere else. I need you doing something else. Maybe you weren't connecting with the ball because that's not the game that he wanted. And I look at your life and I just think to myself, you went through living hell. You legitimately went through horrible times, tough times, times that many people will never, ever have to experience. And here you are today, in a way, you not connecting with the ball is what essentially has helped you hit a home run today, in my opinion.
Well, it helped me understand who I was and where I was most effective. And look, I'm not the only person that played basketball and wanted to be a center, right? Like when I played basketball or when I played soccer, I wanted to be a goalie. But guess what? I wasn't tall enough to be a goalie, and I wasn't tall enough to be a center. Years ago, there was so much peace that I earned from watching Shaquille O'Neal on television say he always wanted to be a guard. He wanted to be the three-point guy. And I thought to myself, isn't that crazy? The biggest, most dominant basketball player in the history of the sport was just like me.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the guard. And I wanted to be Shaq. I wanted to be the guy that got the offense went through every single time. The difference is Shaq understood that he wanted to be a guard, but he was born a center. And that if he wanted to shine and he wanted to be successful, it was imperative that he understand how to be the best center ever, because that's where he was most effective. Having gone through everything that I went through and lost everything that I did when I got to prison, I started to realize I was so fortunate to have an upper middle class family, right? I had every opportunity through them to be successful, because they would have helped me be successful. They would have helped me financially in certain things. And then I realized, as much as I despise my gifts of athleticism, like that's who I was. That's who I am. I'm an athlete, right? This is my opportunity to create something for other people. It's through my athleticism. And that's what happened, right? I got back on my bike, but I got back on my bike understanding that I am a bike rider. Yeah. I love basketball. I have season tickets to the Mavericks. It's my favorite sport. My girl and I go to these games. She's learning to understand basketball. It just makes my life really happy. But you know what? I was a BMX athlete. And once I figured that out, I was able to get on the bike and I was able to put in effort in a way that I couldn't before. And then I started to realize that I was actually getting up to bat and I was connecting. And while I didn't make it to the Olympics as a racer, when I got back on my bike and I became the racer I was supposed to be, it was through that the opportunity to coach after I blew my knee out and lost my career presented itself, right? And through that coaching opportunity is what really what really gave me the pathway to where I am today, right? There's so much to booking me as a speaker. That's the tagline, from prison to the Olympics, right? I have the story that people say, whoa, that's incredible, right? It's only incredible because I realized that I'm a BMX racer, I'm an athlete, and this is what I needed to go do. And once I did that, I started getting up to bat and I started scoring points, and opportunity after opportunity started showing itself. So you're 100% right. And that's really what it's been, is finding out who I am, what I'm good at, how I need to give it to the world, and how much time I spent trying to do what I thought other people wanted me to do, or what the world would want me to do, or in some cases, for many people, what your parents think you need to be doing, instead of just doing what you should be doing. Finding that out requires a lot of time to yourself. Yeah. It requires you to pull away from people, places, and things that may not be conducive to your mental health, so you can actually sit down and you can focus on these types of matters, so you can get to a place, you get on your bicycle, whatever that is, so you can go to your Olympics, wherever that is. I think that every person in this world has their Olympics, that has their bike, but you have to find it. It's there, but it's up to you to accept it. A lot of people don't even realize they're with their bike right now, but they hate it. They don't see it as a gift. They don't see it as their opportunity, because why? They get on social media, they get on TikTok, and they get on TV, and they watch these other people, and they fantasize about other people's lives, and they think, man, that's what I want, instead of realizing you have that. It's right next to you. You're just not willing to see that as your pathway to get there.
Yeah, and it's incredible. It is. And your message is incredible. And I feel that And that's why I wanted you to be on today's show, because, and we're in a season, and I talked about this last week with Juanita Ward, fantastic human being, and we were discussing the fact that, we're in this holiday season, the season of giving, right? The season of thankfulness. And people are, for whatever reason, and this is a mental thing, people, and again, control. People don't think they have control. You do. The world tells you from the end of November to the end of December, you have to love life. You have to be appreciative. You have to be thankful, because Thanksgiving starts off being thankful. Then the holiday season, buying for others, doing for others, getting together, looking at the lights, being a little kid, seeing a Christmas tree, singing Christmas carols, going to church. And then, on New Year's Eve, you promise something to yourself or to somebody else. And then New Year's Day, we're back at it again, and we forgot it. And then we go back to Thanksgiving and start all over again. It's a mental thing that we think, hey, during this period, everybody's nice. But that's a choice. If the media told us, if greeting cards in the big box stores told us, hey, the middle of July you're supposed to appreciate life, people would probably start to do it. Now that we're in this holiday season, Tony, and we're in this time of giving and thankfulness, how do we keep this going all year round and not just condition ourselves to believe that we only do it from the end of November to the beginning of January? How do we start saying to ourselves, hey, we're the ones that choose to go out, buy stuff. We're the ones that choose to go do for other people. We're the ones that choose to, say what we're thankful for. How do we take ourselves out of what we've been told to do, which is be nice for like a month and a half, and start being good to ourselves and good to others all year round? How do we take that control that, is kind of over us, that feeling of we have to be good now, and we start to be good every day? Because it's kind of crazy to sit here and think during Christmas time everybody seems a little more cheerful. Why shouldn't people be cheerful in the middle of March?
Here's for me personally, I've never esteemed one day higher than the next, ever. Like, not even my birthday. I don't know. I've just never been that person. I get up and I do almost the same thing every single day, right? And I have the same mindset. I have the same perspective of what I'm doing and how I'm going to give, or, X, Y, and Z in terms of just how I operate my life. Because of that, when I get to something like Christmas, I don't try to go over the top in giving. I don't try to go over the top in being thankful, right? It's just another day, but it's also a period in time in which we do give gifts. But because I'm not interested in making other people happy for this illusion that I'm such a great person, or I'm in love with them, I will do what's within boundary of my financial status. Like everybody knows that's in my family, gifts for me this year are not going to look the same because I'm in the process of going into escrow on a house. The pandemic has been extremely tough on me in terms of so I always do what I'm able to do within the confines of where my life is in that moment, 365 days a year. That's just what I do. If I have extra financial means and somebody comes to me and they have this cool cause, I'll donate to it. If something unfortunate happens, like a friend's family member dies and they don't have the money for a funeral, I'll donate to it. And so I'm constantly doing things like that throughout the year. I don't go into the holiday season and say, okay, now it's time to step it up. I don't need to step it up.
Yeah.
Stepping it up for me means more anxiety. It means more fear-based. I would just say more anxiety because you're draining more money out of your account. You're putting more money on your credit cards. You're trying to make all of these individuals happy. And the way I see it is simple as this. Remember the game Operation when we were kids?
Yeah.
There was a little board. that had body parts inside different things. You had the little tweezers, and if you touched the outer rim of the skin where that body part was that you needed to pick out, it would vibrate.
Yeah.
I don't like to feel because that's anxiety, that's fear, that's these expectations that I can create for myself externally about other people's opinions and this, that, and the other. If I feel that, I take a step back and I look at that body part and I say, okay, why did that even go off? And then I realize it's because I'm trying to overextend myself. And I think that that's what individuals do in these holiday seasons is they overextend themselves financially. They overextend themselves in giving their time to other people. And they overextend themselves in all of these situations because they're trying to meet these expectations of others and what's going on instead of realizing I don't have to do that. I have to do what's best for myself in balance. Right? Yeah. I need to do this and this, but I'm not going to do this year because I'd really like to spend some time with myself so I can be better 365 days a year for other people, other places, and other things that come into my life. So for myself, I don't go into this like crazy Christmas mode where everybody gets a ton of gifts and my credit cards get maxed out and I do this. I'm a very giving person, and I try to be that giving person 365 days a year. It might be Christmas from me to somebody else in the middle of March. And I found that when I do that, when Christmas is something or Thanksgiving is something that I encounter through the year, my mental health is in an overall better state because I'm committing to things that I know that when I pick up the tweezers, I can go straight to the body part, I can pull it out, and I don't experience any kind of disruptive emotion. And it takes self-awareness to understand how you do that, right? It's how to say that these are my boundaries for this year. These are my boundaries for today. These are going to be my boundaries once I wake up tomorrow and I approach the day, and then just live within those boundaries. You approach the holiday season just like you would approach every other day, and that is to keep your mental health in check, that is to keep your financial health in check, and that is to keep your relational health in check. And you can only do that through balance.
What you're essentially talking about is not letting outside influence affect your inner peace.
Or decisions.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you got to say no.
Yeah,
and no is the best answer you can give, and it may hurt somebody else, but saying yes may be the reason that you hurt yourself. And if you hurt yourself, how effective are you to help somebody else?
Well, and that's the thing too is sometimes saying no to something or someone is saying yes to you. You know, and I mean I know this. I've had this conversation with somebody recently. Is you know, you work and you work and you work, and they're working a 16-hour day, then a 19-hour day, then a 16-hour day, and they're staying late and they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's because they want to save something. They want to fix something. They want to make something better. They love what they do. And then their physical health started to get affected by it. And I said, now you're not 100%. You don't feel good. You know, you're not taking care of yourself. But they had to hit a point where all of the work that they did and everything they put forward, that the people at the top of that didn't care. They had to see that they're like killing themselves to try and help somebody, and that person turns around and says, yeah, that doesn't matter. And it hit home, but their intentions were good. And how many times is it like that? You know, we kind of kill ourselves to save somebody else. Our intentions are good, but we have to hit that point where something happens or somebody says something or something's done where we kind of just stop and say, you know what? I know my intentions are good. I know I'm trying to help, but I can't kill myself over this.
That's right. You're right.
Coming from Tony Hoffman. Tony, I'd be remiss if we didn't finish with these final 2 points. I know we mentioned them a little bit, but I really want to get to this for you in closing. The rehab that you're starting yourself, you know what it's like to go through and bring yourself not only back up to where maybe you thought you were going to be, but even past that and to be better. So paying it forward with having a rehab place that's now going to be from you, just what you could say about what that is and your intention of that. And then secondly, the book tour for the prisons across the United States and why it's important to go into the prisons.
Yeah, absolutely. So PH Wellness will be opening up in Riverside, California to start. It's a 16-bed treatment center that's focusing on alcohol and drug addiction as well as co-occurring disorders for mental health. The thing that's going to make us unique is that we have a heavy focus on fitness, and we also have a never seen before career opportunity placement program for our outpatient individuals. And so what we're basically doing is we're going to take this fit approach to sobriety, and fit is incorporating fitness into our daily lives, doing inventory work and understanding trauma and how there's a root to the addiction and how we can overcome those through therapeutics, and then transferable life skills. And that's going to be done through our outpatient program, which is basically modeled around my own sobriety model, as well as a partnership with an organization that is going to train individuals to be ready for careers. And then we will place them into a career with places like Tesla, companies that are helping Tesla develop battery technology, AT&T and Verizon. When I say AT&T and Verizon, I'm not talking about selling phones in a store. I'm talking about technicians building 5G networks. Individuals will be given opportunities to go through our career program and then be placed into a program where they're making over $20 an hour, have 401k and health benefits. This is one thing that I've said treatment centers and counties and communities all over the country are failing to do with individuals that find themselves with substance use disorder or individuals that ended up in the prison system. When they get out, there's no real opportunities for them to change their life, and it makes changing their life extremely difficult. What we're going to do at PH Wellness is utilize what helped myself and my two business partners get sober: fitness. It's not about competing in the Olympics. It's not about becoming Ironman athletes like my business partners. It's about getting outside and being active. And then it's about understanding the internal process to life. And then it's about building transferable life skills and being placed into a career opportunity. So we're really excited about what we're doing. We think that we have created a product that is completely different in terms of the rehab and treatment space, and that as a result of that, we will be really successful. And then obviously the last thing is the book signing tour. And honestly, I wouldn't have come up with this idea if it wasn't for the pandemic. So I wasn't speaking as much during the pandemic, obviously. So I was looking for opportunities for me to donate my time to different types of things so I could continue to speak, but I could also continue to stay sober and continue to experience the joy of giving my gifts to other people. And so what I found was I started working with prisons, believe it or not. Prisons and rehabs were reaching out to me more than anything during the pandemic and wondering if I'd be willing to speak with clients or speak with inmates. And it was one of those things where I felt like, this isn't something I want to charge for. This is something that I want to set up a way for me to, do Q&As for an hour long after they watch my TED Talk for 15 minutes. And then as I was on this journey of doing these continually, what seemed to be like weekly, it kind of hit me. You know what? I think that what I want to do is, when I finish this book, is I want to go into prisons. I want to speak, and then I want to sit down with these inmates, however many I get to speak to at this when I'm there, and I want to sign books, and I want to hand them the blueprint. Because really, my book is the blueprint for individuals that are in institutions right now. Our book is the blueprint for those that are in active addiction or early recovery that are trying to figure out how to create their own path to get to their Olympics. But it's also the blueprint for society to understand institutions from a different point of view, or understand jails and prisons from a different point of view. And so for me, I'm going to pay for all of my travel. I'm not going to charge any prison to speak. I've got one sponsor so far that's going to help me buy books to give to these inmates. And this is a personal mission for myself. This isn't about a career. This is a personal mission. I need to go into these prisons, and I need to go in free of charge. And I've got 5 states that are on board already, that are ready to open up prisons in their states and let me come in. And I'm going to speak to whoever they let me speak to. And I'm going to make connections with people that are in those rooms. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to personalize that connection, and I'll hand them the blueprint. And my goal is that I'm going to help these inmates in a way, in terms of mental perspective.
Yeah.
It's going to give them the blueprint of how to wake up, how to understand vision, how to set goals, how to structure your days, how to be routine, how to be disciplined, how to dream. And it's not going to be a book on education. It's just my life story. But the way I tell it, it's going to lay all of that out for them. And I haven't been this excited about a project in a really, really long time. Either the rehab or this book signing tour have really invigorated some excitement that I can't remember feeling since before, I knew I was going to get on my bicycle and wanted to go to the Olympics. I'm just really overwhelmed with these positive emotions that make me feel like, God, this is going to be a big deal. Like, this is just going to be so cool because I'm just going to be able to help people. And that's what I've learned drives me. And I'm going to continue to, once I do this book tour and once I get this treatment center going, I'm going to continue to dream of ways that I can help people. I have just learned that my life has been so much more fulfilling when all I do is try and come up with new ways to help people. And in exchange, the more I learn how to help people, the better I get at helping people, the more I've learned that I have to worry less about financial things. The more I have to worry less about mental health matters. My life just seems to find such a better balance. And so I'm really excited about these 2 things that I've got going that are coming up here in the near future.
It's amazing how one of the darkest times in the history of the planet, of being separated and shut down and whatnot, that you have taken this time period to better yourself, to want to do more, to become more positive, to become more helpful, to become more of a resource, to be good to yourself and to good to others. It speaks a lot to who you are, Tony. I appreciate it. I would love the opportunity, hopefully soon, to sit down in the same room and just rep with you for a little bit and just talk about things and ideas and different things that we have on our minds. So hopefully we get the opportunity to be in the same room soon. But thank you for the opportunity of being here with me today and showing us that even in the darkest of moments, great light can shine. And I am so invigorated by your story, invigorated by your message, invigorated by your drive and what you have coming up. And I'm happy to know you. And I'm excited to see how many people we can help with this, because whatever I can do to help and get it out there, like today, sharing this message, I'm really happy for the fact that there's somebody out there doing what you're doing. And I'm so proud that you've continued to help yourself more than anything else.
I appreciate you having me on the show. We'll be definitely in person at some point. Upstate New York is a hot spot for my work, and I'm sure we'll be in the same area at once and we can sit down. But I'm always grateful for an opportunity to come on the show and appreciate your support. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thanks. That's Tony Hoffman once again. Tony, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you really quick.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Tony M. Hoffman. On Facebook, Tony Hoffman Speaking. You can find my website, TonyHoffmanSpeaking.com. You can watch my TED Talk on YouTube just by searching my name. Google me. You can find plenty of information about the work that I do and the things that I've done. So to all of the listeners, thank you for listening. Reach out to me if you have questions on any of the outlets that I just mentioned. I'm happy to engage with you.
Well, thank you, Tony, and God bless with everything. Keep doing what you're doing. And once again, I'm happy for you, and I appreciate your inspiration. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. That coming from Tony Hoffman once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So I appreciate it so very much. From sports stardom to struggles to coaching in the Olympics to now opening a rehab and setting up a book tour in prisons free of charge, literally just because he wants to help people and give people a blueprint on how they can help themselves. Tony didn't have somebody coming to visit him in prison that had written a book to tell him how to get out of something. Now he's trying to make somebody else's life in a similar situation even better. Paying it forward. It's one thing to get yourself out of a black hole. It's another thing to then turn around to that black hole and reach your hand down and see if there's another hand trying to get out too. Sometimes, all the time, actually, we can all use a hand. So, even when somebody says, no, I don't need it. I don't need your help. Sometimes those are the people that need it the most. So, for Tony, I really do appreciate it. Tony Hoffman being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, sharing his message this morning. Such an incredible inspiration. I'm going to share this on all of our platforms, all of our archives, so you should definitely go back and listen to it, share it, send it to family, friends, coworkers, colleagues, total strangers. Put it on your social media. Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, YouTube, as well as MixLR. This will be shared there today, so you can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in any one of these venues and find it, or you can find it on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at CallDT, or Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, as I will be sharing them there as well. So definitely make sure you check that out. And so thankful for Tony to come here today and share his message and share his positivity. And looking forward to what we can potentially do to help each other in the future, God willing. So God is good. If there's a will, there's a way, right? So with that being said, we're going to have David Walker on here in just a second. I do want to let you know that I put up 2 polls this morning, and y'all have started voting in droves, definitely jumping on both of these polls, going heavy on one of them for sure. I asked who will win the 2021-2022 college football playoff, and right now 50% of you have chosen the Alabama Crimson Tide. 16.7% of you have chosen Michigan, Georgia, or Cincinnati. So everybody has received a vote in who will win the 2021-2022 college football playoff. This poll is on Twitter at CallDT. That's CALLDT. So make sure you join me on Twitter today. All you have to do is go to Twitter, click follow, and you and I will be connected. So make sure that you go onto Twitter. I still don't like that they call it followers, because to me, I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a follower of God. I'd rather it just be called like supporter or something like that. But looking at this, those of you that are connected with me on Twitter, thank you for voting. Those of you that have not connected with me yet, make sure you do that at CallDT. That's CALLDT. Who will win the college football playoff? 50% of you saying Alabama, 16.7% of you saying Michigan, Georgia, or Cincinnati. So everybody's gotten a vote. My Alabama's got the majority of it. And then to go to my other poll that's almost at 200 votes, and I put it up within the last half hour. Where do you think Mario Cristobal will end up? The choices are remaining the Oregon head coach or becoming Miami's head coach. 26.3% of you say he will remain in Oregon. 73.7% of the almost 200 votes that have come in believe that he will be in Miami as their new head coach, which means what happens to Manny Diaz? And what a unique situation. How Manny Diaz accepted the job to become the Temple head coach when Mark Richt retired. And Manny Diaz accepted that job, and then I feel like, literally, it felt like within 2 weeks, if the plane even landed in Philadelphia, I feel like he took a plane from Miami to Philly, and literally, if he even touched down, left again. You know, it was like he accepted the job at Temple, Mark Richt stepped down, and then Miami said, we want you, Manny Diaz, and then he turned around and came back and gave up the job at Temple before he ever really accepted the job on the ground, so to speak, at Temple. So he accepts the job, and then he leaves, and now he's in a situation where they're allegedly talking to another coach while he's sitting there as a lame duck recruiting. So kind of ironic how it works out, where Miami kind of showed their cards that they really don't care about the coach. They really don't care about, you know, contracts or agreements, because Manny leaves and then they go, Manny, we want you back, after he had accepted a job at Temple, instead of respecting that. And then Manny goes, okay, I'm going to come back. And now Manny's sitting there and he's the coach, but for how long, as they're allegedly talking to Mario Cristobal of Oregon. So for a guy who spurned a team that he committed himself to is now getting spurned by the team he came back to, who looks like they're committed to somebody else. So it's a unique situation, and obviously we'll be tracking it here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. But speaking of coaches, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break and come back with a coach who is now coaching coaches, and that is Mr. David Walker, who joins us inside of MonPazPopcorn.com. And what's popping here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cue Ball studios right after this fast break. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT for sitting inside of the Cafe Cuball studios. You're also watching on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT from inside of the Cafe Cuball studios. We have spoken a little bit about Cincinnati, but we're going to do that a little bit more here with our next guest. That is Mr. David Walker. David Walker, a former running back for the Syracuse Orange Football program. He went on to coach at Syracuse in the collegiate level as well as the Pitt Panthers collegiately. Went on to the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts and the Detroit Lions most recently, just about 3 years ago here, and has been coaching coaches as of late. And we're here to talk about a lot of different things here with David Walker. We were having such a good conversation off the air. Y'all are lucky we got back from commercial break because you're going to miss some stuff. So I'm very excited to have David here back on the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. David, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
And David, you just had a birthday recently. I know you said it was just another day, but I got to ask you, pardon me, what are you most thankful for when you look at this point in your life and you're celebrating a birthday and you have time to reflect? What are you thankful for?
I would say probably first and foremost, family and friends, people that are around me on a daily basis that look out and care for me. I'm pretty fortunate in terms of, health right now, so I don't take that for granted. When you look around, we see guys that are having some issues and or have lost their lives recently. So I don't take that for granted. So I guess those would be the things that I am appreciative for.
We've been through such a unique time in these last 19 months that have hopefully taught us something. And you talk about being in good health, and you're thankful for that. And not everybody can necessarily say that right now. I want to go back to a moment that, was pre-pandemic and really difficult for the Syracuse football brethren to take in and people that have known him, come to know him. But in these last 19 months, we've learned the importance of mental health. When we think about mental health and then we go back and think about Chris Gedney, just what you can say about, what his passing kind of meant to you. Was it a wake-up call in any way, shape, or form? And how important is mental health?
Well, you bring up Chris, and me and Chris go back. We were recruited together, and we're classmates and teammates for 5 years. So I've always had a great deal of respect for Chris, and as a human being and as a football player. And as he went through life, obviously he had different struggles, some health issues prior to the mental health issues. He had physical issues that he dealt with when he was in Chicago with the Bears and different things. And we had kept in touch over the years. Unfortunately, when I had heard what had happened, I mean, I had talked to him, the week prior, 2 weeks prior to that incident, and he at that point he seemed like he was in decent spirits, and everything was normal. But obviously, you don't always know really what's going on in the minds of people, you say awakening, you use that word. I mean, forces you just to try to reach out a little bit more. Tell people that you love them. Try to be there for people as much as you can, because, like I said, you don't really know what's going on, and you're hopeful that people reciprocate that to you.
David, when because I had a friend that passed away from their own hands, and he was 70% of the reason why I went to Marywood University and Jay Hammer. And I look back on conversations and I say, hey, when he was joking, was he joking or was he serious? You kind of go back and you look at things, and could I have done more? Could I have said more? How do you navigate the waters of that? Because I found myself really thinking about him and thinking, when he said that, was he in more pain than I thought he was? Did he need something? Could I have gone to see him more? Could I have called more? I think, the person that's hurting, what they may not know is that after they're gone, those that really love them are kind of, left wondering, what did we miss? Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. You have a lot of self-reflection after, you have experienced the loss of somebody like that in that type of circumstance, and that's why I think, at least I try to. I can't speak for everyone else, but I try to do a good job and listen when I'm engaging with people, and if I feel there's something that needs further discussion or something that maybe I need to dive further in, I'm not scared to do that with certain people that I call my friends. So I think a lot of it is really listening and taking actions if you feel that something may be warranted.
And when you look back at getting recruited with Chris, just what some of your fondest memories are of, that time period together?
Well, like I said, the recruitment process, being a teammate of his. I mean, there's so many things when you go through college with certain guys, and I've got so many good memories of time spent with him, and just like I said, enjoying his personality, enjoying at that time in his life, his zest for life, and watching his successes. He was as big a part of anybody as the success we had during our run. Him and a lot of other guys, but I think of him. I think of the big smile. Think of times together, and I try to block out how necessarily he ended his life, and more try to remember how he lived his life.
What a beautiful way to put it. For that coming from David Walker here, as we remember Chris Gedney this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, and David coming to us from his time at Syracuse and from your coaching days. David, it's got to be interesting to be a coach at Syracuse and be a coach at Pittsburgh, because they don't really like each other. But, you get the opportunity to see both sides, so to speak. What can you say about, obviously being a fan of Syracuse, being an alum of Syracuse, coaching at Syracuse, and at the same time, you got to be a fan of Pittsburgh and supportive of them when you're there and whatnot. I mean, Pittsburgh just won their first ACC championship game. What is your feeling? How do you balance, your history at Syracuse and Pitt? Are you allowed to say that you support the Pitt Panthers?
Well, I mean, I'm a Syracuse alum first, and always will want Syracuse to do well and root for Syracuse and those things. So, let's get that out there. But I've got friends that are still at the University of Pitt. When you're a coach, you've got friends all over the country that are coaching at different schools. So when I'm watching games, sometimes I'm rooting for not the team, but for some of my friends to have success. So excited to see where that program has come, and obviously they had a great year this year. They did it on both sides of the ball.
Of Nippert Stadium, as your Cincinnati Bearcats have just won their second straight AAC championship in front of a giant, packed, loud, and amazing crowd. The Cincinnati Bearcats have won their second straight title in the football championship game for the American.
Excited to see what Pitt did, and excited to see them have an opportunity to represent the ACC in the New Year's Six Bowls coming up.
Yeah, and I have the opportunity to speak tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're doing a lot of different things with Al Romano Romano comes from Central New York, was recruited all throughout, and Syracuse being one of those places, Pittsburgh as well. He went to Pittsburgh and won a national championship with Tony Dorsett. So, I'm going to ask him about this, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it as a former player and a coach and someone who's analytical of the game. How good is Kenny Pickett?
I think, I really like his game, the times I've been able to watch him play. He reminds me of an NFL quarterback, like the things that I watched him do this year. Once again, I haven't studied the kid, but you see him enough, and I think that kid's gonna be a really, really good pro. Some of the things he does, the anticipation, he's taken a good team and made them great a lot by what he does. Now he's got some nice weapons around him on the offensive side of the ball there too, but I think Kenny Pickett is going to be an outstanding professional quarterback. I thought he was outstanding this year, and to be honest with you, I think he's very deserving of having a chance to be in New York when they do the Heisman finalists.
Yeah, and I think it's great, to have been around him. And, I interviewed him at the beginning of the season, and just being able to see a guy who went from nobody knew his name and nobody cared, and it's Pittsburgh, and it's not Alabama, and it's not Georgia, and it's not Oklahoma, and it's not Florida. And now all of a sudden, people have come to know him. As a former running back, have you ever seen a quarterback pull off a fake slide like he just did in the ACC championship?
I tell you what, that was no, to answer your question. I've never seen that, and I thought it was kind of brilliant in all honesty. But the kids got athleticism to go along with. Really, he seems like he's a really heady player by some of the decisions you see him make with the ball, and then he can throw the ball, and you add in, the athleticism to, it would have been a 30-yard run, 20-yard, 30-yard run prior to the fake slide, and then he goes and takes it to the distance. But I don't know if you put him in Lamar Jackson's category, but he's definitely a guy that's extremely athletic and can make you pay with his feet.
Yeah, and it's been incredible as they step forward into the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl against Michigan State, a game that I was at the beginning of the year when I was watching the end of last season where Cincinnati took on Georgia. And as David and I were talking about off the air, people seem to maybe not pay attention to the fact that Cincinnati has already seen the SEC when they faced Georgia. Not only did they see them, they pushed Georgia to the brink. They commanded the game pretty much all the way through, and outside of the last two possessions and the last second field goal, like 3 seconds left or whatever it was at that point, Cincinnati had that game won. So they already know what it's like to go up against Georgia, who had the same coach, and some of those players that are on the roster this year were there last year. So here goes Desmond Ridder again. They got to go through Alabama for the opportunity to play either Michigan or Georgia. But what I'm getting at is, I've already seen Cincinnati fight. I've already seen Cincinnati improve. Cincinnati doesn't shy away from anything non-conference schedule-wise. They played Ohio State. They played UCLA. They've played Notre Dame and so on and so forth. And if people say UCLA shouldn't be put in that category, I would say, well, if Notre Dame played them, you would all commend them for beating them. But when Cincinnati does it, they're supposed to. So looking at Cincinnati, Luke Fickell has put himself in the giant, kind of battlefield earth of the Power Five and said, okay, you know what? We're going to play them. We're going to see who we are against them. Sometimes the only game that they lost is the game to Ohio State. We've seen what Cincinnati can do. He came in his first year. He went 4-8, taking over a program that was in just utter upheaval. And Tommy Tuberville left it. And I respect Tommy and the way that things were in Cincinnati when his era came to an end were just not where you would hope things would be for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Luke comes in, he goes 4-8, and then after that, it's just winning. 3 straight AAC championship games. They've won the last 2, and I am looking at a Cincinnati team that is 13-0. They beat Notre Dame on the road in South Bend by double digits. They blew out every team they played against, which people commend Alabama and the SEC and the Big Ten for doing when they do it. And here we are wondering if they were going to get in, and they finally get in. I know it's a long setup, David, but what are your thoughts on the Cincinnati Bearcats? And I know you and I spoke about it a little bit off the air, but this is a team that already knows what it's like to play Georgia. They're not afraid of anybody. And guys like Sauce and Desmond Ritter and company, they came back to prove something this year. So what's your take on Cincinnati?
Yeah, I have I get a chance every year to see Cincinnati live, and because my son plays at Miami of Ohio, and they're on the schedule every year. So I had a chance earlier in the year to watch Cincinnati live. I've had a chance to watch them on TV several times this year. I've been extremely impressed with that football team. I think it starts with the quarterback when you just, take away the coaching and the culture that has been created there. But I think Desmond Ritter is as good a quarterback as anybody in the country. They can score points. They can score points in bunches like you saw the other day against Houston in the championship game. It was a close game at halftime. In the third quarter, they ran away from it. Defensively, I think they're very good. They're good at all levels. Their defensive line can stop the run and rush the passer. Their back half is very good, and they turn the ball over. So, and then you flip it over back to the offensive side of the ball. They've got a great quarterback, but they also got a great running back in Jerome Ford. So I think they're a very complete team. You could argue and say, out of all the teams in college football this year, you could argue and say maybe they've got the third best win of every team in the country, beating Notre Dame. Some people would argue that maybe Alabama's win over Georgia is the best win in the country this year. I guess you could argue Michigan's win over Ohio State could be the best win in the country, but Cincinnati beating Notre Dame is up there. So I look at that football team. I don't see a lot of holes. I see them solid offensively and defensively. I see them be able to run the ball effectively and throw the ball effectively and have balance. So I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they defeated Alabama in the semifinals.
Yeah, and again, this is a team that has nothing to lose, everything to gain. And being in the world that I'm in this broadcast media world, when a name comes up, like Luke Fickell's, and, he should coach here. Do you think he's going to coach here? I've seen this. I saw it with Mike Hopkins. There came a time with like 2 or 3, within 2 or 3 years, something like that, where every year, if any job was open, Mike Hopkins' name was up for it. Oh, Boston College is open. Do you think Mike will take it? Oh, this one, you think Mike will take it? Oh, there's a head coaching job for, 5-year-olds in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Do you think he'll take it? But it's the truth, and so what I'm trying to get at here is in broadcast media, there's people that create stories because they want you to click on stuff, and there's no truth to it. And then there's people like myself that I would like to, think I do my due diligence. I go to trusted sources. I don't just fly off the handle. And if I feel like something is going in that direction or there's some truth to it, then I'm going to go for it. But I have to actually do my homework. So when it comes to Mike, I always just brushed everything off because, it was like an every year thing and whatever. With Luke Fickell, I feel the same way. And I've asked Luke about it. Luke and I have literally spoken since he came to Cincinnati. We have been on press conferences together. We've been in places in the same room together. And, we were just in the same room, and I just talked to him this Saturday, and I'm going to be posting that this week. So, when his name gets brought up, I sit here and I wonder how much of it is Luke going, hey, I'm interested, and how much of it is people just saying, again, the media just trying to create buzz because they want you to click on their story because they think it's a good idea and this and that. He didn't go to Notre Dame, which would have been stupid. He beats Notre Dame and then he goes there. Now, if you can't beat him, join him. He did beat him. So why go to Notre Dame? Why go to Oklahoma? I'm looking at these different things. If he's not going to these places, then what he's essentially been telling you for years is when jobs have become vacant, if Oregon becomes vacant, Oklahoma's become vacant, Florida's become vacant, Notre Dame became vacant, USC became vacant, if he's staying where he is, then what he said to me within the last couple of years about his family being happy here and his kids and his wife and this and that, and what he's building, then he could be one of the coaches that tells the truth. What are your thoughts on the fact that, we live in a world where, and you get it, David, I mean, you've played, you've coached, sometimes when coaches come up on the are they going, staying, this and that all it is just media just creating something that doesn't exist sometimes. So how do you handle it, and what do you think about the fact that Luke has been dedicated to Cincinnati, and no matter how many times his name comes up, whether true or not, he hasn't gone anywhere but right there with the Bearcats?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you covered there that I'll try to hit on. I think coaches in general, and we can use Luke Fickell as an example, or we can use any coach. I think when you're at a school or at a job, whether it's college or in the NFL, if you are happy where you're at, and your organization or your team is having success, and you're seeing the fruits of your labor, so to speak, kind of match expectations or exceed expectations at a place you're at, then at times there's no need to move on to a different spot. If you're happy and your family's happy, you like the location you're living in, your team is having success, you're working with good people, those are jobs that you don't try to run and find a different job. Those are the jobs you try to seek. So obviously he's built something in the process of building something in Cincinnati. He's garnered a lot of attention from outside sources when other things come up. I think guys, in this profession, guys become a hot name regardless of whether they have an aspiration to move or not move. It's just the nature of the business. And guys have, probably a 3 or 4 year window where they're, let's so-called, the hot name, and then, the next hot name comes up. So I've been very impressed from afar from what he's been able to do. And if he wants to try to go challenge himself in a different conference, at, let's call it a Power 5 conference, when those job opportunities come up, then, good for him. And, he'll probably get an opportunity if that's what he so desires. But, he's done a fabulous job there. And, like I said, I've got nothing but respect for what I've seen him do. And once again, everybody's decision is a little bit personal in terms of why they maybe would look at a different job, or why they maybe would just stay put. I guess you could look at it the exact same way you're posing the question or the commentary of, why would a guy like Brian Kelly's, I think, an interesting deal when you're at a school like Notre Dame, whose reach from a recruiting standpoint is nationwide, and you've had X amount of 10-win seasons in a row, and you're the winningest coach in the history of Notre Dame football.
Yeah.
And then you go take a job at a very comparable school. You know what I mean? So, and maybe he thought it was his time to move on, and he wanted a different challenge, and this, that, and the other. Where we look at a Luke Fickell, maybe he's not to the point where he wants to move on, and he's excited about the challenge he has in front of him. So, different guys doing different things. I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to why a coach moves on or why a coach stays put.
And I think, and like you said, I mean, each coach, it's individual, right? For Scott Frost, I was there. I was there at UCF. I was there at the Bounce House, and, they win the conference championship over Memphis, and he's pink in the face in the post-game press conference, and he's emotional, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, those tears are not just the tears of we won a championship game. They're the tears of somebody who looks like he's having a really hard time. And within the hour, he was gone. And the AD at the time, Danny White, said, hey, we're going to have a press conference downstairs for those of you still working here. And, doing because I was writing my story, and we went back downstairs and spoke less than an hour later about how they're looking for a new coach right after Scott Frost had won. And that was such an eerie, I don't want to call it eerie, it was just it was very unique of a situation. To have emotions run so high and have the team be so excited and the whole city celebrating, and then within the hour have everybody like, well, what are we going to do now? So, but Scott went back to his alma mater. And, that's a decision that he made. We look at Luke Fickell left Ohio State as a coordinator to become a head coach and stay in the same state, but to go to Cincinnati. Ed Ogeron seemingly has loved LSU, and LSU had little love for him. Some fans didn't want him to become the head coach. Then he won a championship, and everybody all of a sudden loved him. And then he loses Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and some of those guys, and people forget that. And now they, wanted him out because he didn't win. So, it's just, and a ton of stories. I mean, Syracuse fans go back to Doug Marrone. And, he said this was his dream job, and then he left. And people still mention that. I can't tell you. It's almost a decade later, David, and fans will still look at me, Syracuse fans all over the country, and in this community especially, will look at me and go, if I say anything about Doug Marrone or Doug Marrone comes up, they'll go, yeah, and this was his dream job. People are still bitter about that. So in the world of coaching, there's many reasons why people do things. For money, for their family, because it's their alma mater, because they want to challenge themselves. So, you've been a coach. You coached at Syracuse. You coached at Pitt. You coached with the Colts. You coached with the Lions. When did you know it was time to move on? When did you know it was time to try something new, to challenge yourself? How did you, as we're talking about coaches making personal decisions on where to go and what to do, how did you figure that out?
My journey was probably a little bit unique, and when I say a little bit unique, we were at Syracuse for 10 years. I was there from 95 to 2004. Not a lot of guys can say they've been at one spot in coaching for a decade.
Yeah.
But for me, my thought was always, I had some opportunities when I was at Syracuse to move on and could have gone to some other schools at a particular point. And that wasn't what I wanted at that time. I enjoyed my time there at Syracuse. Basically we were forced out. When I say we were forced out, when Coach Pasqualoni got let go, then, at that point it was time for me to move on. Went to Pitt and really was the same type of situation. We had some success at Pitt. I had some other opportunities. I didn't necessarily want to take those opportunities. And, Dave Wanstead got fired, so we got fired at Pitt. So I was forced to move on, so to speak. It wasn't necessarily ready to wait for the new regime to come in and see all the different culture changes, and I was more proactive. The opportunity that really got me excited is when when we got fired at Pitt. I actually got hired briefly by Randy Edsel at the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I was maybe a month on the job, and an opportunity presented itself, in the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts. And so, at that point in my career, if I ever was going to have an opportunity to coach in the National Football League, I felt, there's an opportunity in front of you. Let's go 100 miles per hour at this thing and see if you can get the job. And I was fortunate enough to get the job and have some time coaching the National Football League. So, my thought had always really been, I'm going to hang in there until something happens. Was all the way through Coach Pasqualoni's tenure until he got let go. Was all the way through Dave Wanstead's tenure in Pitt till he got let go. And then the opportunity, like I said, presented itself to take the challenge and jump to the National Football League. And that's what I did. So I kind of, if I'm somewhere, I want to be there and kind of get the job done, so to speak, whatever the expectations of that program or organization are at that particular time. And if you can, take the program to that level or higher And so that's been my attitude and mentality when it's come to jobs and whether to go take a job or not take a job or go looking. I always kind of, thought I was going to do the best job I was with where I was at, the job I had, and then we'll see what happens.
Speaking here with Syracuse Orange running back, alum David Walker, and of course a coach in many different places, as you just mentioned. David, you go back to that time with Paul Pasqualoni. You said, not a lot of people can say that. You had longevity at Syracuse, which is that doesn't happen anymore with the football program. The coaches change frequently. Even with Dino now going into year number 7, he has not kept the same staff, I believe, any year from one year to the next. Somebody's left or somebody's gotten fired. So when you look back on the Paul Pasqualoni time, and I think you know where my head's at with this, because, and I'm going to tell you flat out, and I'll start it off, I feel this way. I was a kid growing up, right? And I was in high school, and I only knew Paul Pasqualoni. I was really, really young when Coach Mack was still the coach, and then Coach P took over. I got to meet Coach Mack before he passed away, and I was in the press box with him so many times, which was great. But I actually went over and shook his hand, and finally I pushed myself to go. I was like, he was in a wheelchair, and I was like, Dan, just go talk to the guy. And I went over and I said hello, and he was so nice and so grateful and so kind. And, I've gotten close with Mackie and Cam over the years too, who are, obviously his grandsons and played at Syracuse. And so, Coach Mack lives on through them, and I love him. I love them both. And so, P was my guy. And I love Coach P. I love the way he did it. I love that he was just like fiery. He was that guy that like he wasn't my dad, but if he yelled at me, I would have felt bad. You know what I mean? And if he was like, you disappointed me, I'd be like, oh my God, what do I need to do to get better? I mean, he was one of those. I remember when I finally got to interview him. I was in Rhode Island. I was at the Hotel Viking, and it was Big East football and whatever before it became the American. And I went over to him and I said, hey, Paul, I'd love to talk with you for a few minutes. Mean a lot to me. And he was coaching at UConn. I think it was his 3rd year. It was right before he got let go. And I was, I said, I was like, I know you're not at Syracuse anymore, but I got to ask you about Syracuse because I was little when you were coaching. And I've always wanted to talk to you about it. And I finally got to talk to him. And he looked at me at one point and he just had that face. And I thought to myself, I wanted to apologize, but I didn't do anything. And so, just that Coach P look. So I got to ask you this. What was it like to coach with Coach P? Because it's such an amazing thing that I think so many people would love to jump in your shoes. And the B side of that is this single-handedly the worst coaching decision that Syracuse has ever made to let him go?
Well, okay, so I'll answer your questions and to say what was like, I had the chance to play for and work with Coach P, and it's an education every day in terms of how he tried to mold us as young men when we were players, and to think not only for the next year or the next 2 years, but really he was trying to educate us all, and I think all the past players would agree. It wasn't necessarily for that 2, 3, 4 years that we were in school, but it was for 20, 30, 40 years down the road.
Yeah.
Some of the same points of reference and the same things in terms of, how you do your work and being punctual and putting your best foot forward. And, there's so many things that I've carried on well after my years as a college student. So he was a teacher and always tried to educate, and then working alongside him as a coach, tireless worker, the attention to detail and all aspects, that are required to be a coach. He was second to none from that standpoint, and just an unbelievable zest to keep learning and studying the game, and then passing that knowledge on to those that came across them. So I'm forever thankful to Paul Pasqualoni for helping me throughout my journey as a coach. And the other guy I'd have to mention, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because if you were an offensive player, during the stretch of the late 90s or excuse me, the late 80s up through, the early 2000s would be George DeLeon as well.
Yeah.
And Coach P and Coach DeLeon were like brothers, so to speak, in terms of how they represented the university and their zest for football and their zest for young men and helping people grow, and then being great ambassadors in the community and working with coaches all over, really all over the Northeast in terms of their time. And so obviously Paul was running the show, but George, once again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention George DeLeon as well in that. When you go to big mistake, making a change, I think there were a lot of factors in place there. Jake was retiring, Daryl Gross had come in. Really the program at that point, the last few years we were there, we weren't as successful as prior. I think we were maybe 6-6, maybe the last 2 years of Paul's coaching at the Q. So I believe, I could be off there, but and at that point with a new athletic director coming in, sometimes people make decisions where they want their own people in place, and so I can understand. Most especially now as I look back, I can certainly understand why a change was made. You go from being, Big East Conference champions and have a great run and do this, that, and the other, and then you hit a lull where you're just kind of average, and the expectation of the program at that time wasn't average. It was to compete for conference championships. So I can see the reasoning why there was a change. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I can understand why it happened. And, so is college athletics.
Yeah. We look at this, and I may mention this before, and you're absolutely correct, that the last 2 seasons for Coach P were 6-6 and him wrapping up in 2004 when he was let go. There's a lot of things around this. I spoke with Daryl Gross about it. Everybody says it was Daryl's fault. He came in and they made him, and he did it because he didn't, he didn't know, and this and that. And Daryl's told a different story, that he was basically told by a group of people, like, you're going to do this. Like, basically, this is your job. You're going to go in there, you're going to fire him. And so, there's a lot of different things around it. But when I look back at Coach P, 11 winning seasons, 1 losing season, 2 6-6 records. Syracuse right now is begging to be 6-6. They think 6-6 is a winning year, which by definition it's 500. It's not a winning year; it's an equator year. And I'm just looking back to Coach P, and I'm saying, since then, Greg Robinson, that was a disaster. Doug Marrone had 2 good years, 2 okay years. Scott Schaefer was completely and utterly disrespected, and I'll sit with anybody on that and speak on how that was true. His coaching staff is all over the country now, and they're all successful still, and so is he, and so is his son. And, the legacy that he could have left at Syracuse was cut short, and I didn't agree with it. And then Dino Babers, 6 years, and recruiting has not been where it needs to be locally. There's no recruitment of anybody locally. The alumni don't feel like they're a part of the team anymore. It just seems like when Paul Pasqualoni got let go and it was like 6-6 isn't good enough, coach, now we're living in a world where 6-6 would be more than good enough. Do you see the irony in that? Do you kind of laugh at that as a former coach and a former player, that what wasn't good enough and was a fireable offense for Paul Pasqualoni, they're not firing a coach who's underneath 6-6 right now? I mean, do you see the irony and kind of the craziness of, over a decade ago, this wasn't okay, and now here we are living in an era where Syracuse goes 6-6 or less than 6-6, and the coach is commended for his effort?
I'll say this. I'm gonna slightly change the narrative on you. Okay, so I'll say this. So,
Okay.
We would all agree that we would like to see Syracuse do better, win more games, program reach higher heights. There's nobody that has ever been associated with the Syracuse football program or is a fan of Syracuse that would not want those things. So that you're stating the obvious for sure there. I look at what Dino's done and is trying to do, and I'm going back and I'm kind of going through. I was looking at the schedule and looking at the results a little bit earlier this morning, and they finished 5-7. They don't necessarily play great down the stretch. They get beat, basically beat pretty good by Pittsburgh, North Carolina State, Louisville. Really, I think if you look at their season, if they found a way, they had that stretch of one possession games in the middle of the year where they couldn't find a way to beat Florida State, they couldn't find a way to beat Wake Forest. Probably some things, if they were done differently, could have turned that outcome around, and they couldn't beat Clemson. So you take those 3 games in the middle of the year, and you surround them with a win at Virginia Tech. You surround them, with a win at Boston College or versus Boston College, and we could be sitting here as opposed to being a 5-7 football team and not going anywhere for a bowl game. We could be a 7-5 or 8-4 football team, and really, I don't think same football team, 1 or 2 plays, and those, like I said, those middle 3 games, and we're sitting here today at 7-5 or 8-4. So I know the reality of where they are, and if you look at Dino's overall record, it hasn't been anything to write home about. But I do see some progress being made, even though there's some losses that are painful and hurtful and things we wish would have been done differently. I still believe this team was, maybe a couple of coaching decisions and or plays away from being 7-5 or 8-4. So
Yeah, I agree.
Not that I'm sitting here and saying Dino Babers is the best thing since sliced bread, but I do believe that the program made significant strides this season, and hopefully will continue to make those strides. Obviously, there was a vote of confidence in terms of him being, reassured that he's going to be back there this year. He made some changes with his staff. Now if we get to next year and there's another valley where, they're a 1 or 2 win team, then maybe then it's time. But if they can get to the point where they can, they're close, but they can get over the hump,
Yeah.
then maybe we got something. So, I'll say it like that. I'm not sure I necessarily answered your question, but that's just my feel of the state of the program, kind of where they were this year. Like I said, there's a couple games I wanted to throw something at the TV to watch it and how things unfolded. But, when you look at the totality and so this is something too that maybe not everybody understands. And once again, I'll just share these things. If we could just find a little bit more balance offensively, obviously we did a great job rushing the football this year with the running back and the quarterback at the end of the year, and found ways to run the ball. Obviously, we've got to throw the ball a little bit better and be better in our pass game from an offensive standpoint. But when you just look at the statistics, I got the ACC statistics pulled up here. They were, pretty decent in scoring offense this year. And then when you look at them from a defensive standpoint, in terms of rushing defense and pass defense and total defense, they were pretty solid in scoring defense. So I guess I'm trying to look at all the positives that I see within the program, and highlight those, and hopefully we can build on those things as opposed to wanting to highlight maybe some of the negative things within the program and highlight those things,
Yeah.
That's just my take on it, and my take, I guess, being in this profession, and my take as a fan. I'm gonna look toward those positive things that I saw, and hopefully those can be enhanced as we move forward, and try to support them as much as we can as a fan base, and the patience of it. Hey, you got to do or you don't do, but I did see some positive things that I felt better about than what happened in 2020 or 2020. That's for sure.
Yeah, and speaking here with David Walker, Syracuse Orange running back alum and a former Syracuse assistant coach, as well as with the Pitt Panthers, the Colts, and the Lions of the NFL. David, before I let you go, a few points here. I was in the press conference with the director of athletics, John Wildhack. It's a unique world when when an AD has a press conference to describe why they're keeping a coach. It's almost like, it's very interesting, because it's almost like, hey, I'm having this press conference to state my case. Because if you're keeping a coach, normally you don't have a press conference. If you're firing a coach, then, the coach is not involved or anything like that. But when you're keeping somebody and you're kind of talking about the why, when I asked John Wildhack, he said, I had plenty of reasons. And I said, okay, what are they? And John responded, well, what the defense had done, and he likes the running game. So he needed to keep Tony White, the defensive coordinator, and he needed to keep the offensive line coach, Mike Schmidt. He doesn't say much about Dino in that. Schmidt was in his first season, and Tony White is in his second season, now going into his third. So I'm sitting here thinking, if you kept Dino because you didn't want to lose those two coaches, why didn't you just offer those two coaches to stay? And it's just an interesting... I have a good relationship with Dino. I want Dino to succeed. I told Dino that the day he came in. That doesn't change. This is my hometown. I want to see him succeed. I want to see his family succeed. I want to see the players succeed. I want to see the coaches succeed. I want to see the community succeed. I'm just kind of, looking at the fact that normally a school does not have a press conference on why they're keeping somebody. And when Virginia Tech did that last year and the AD discussed why he kept Justin Fuente, he fired him the following season, which is this season. So I guess as a coach, how do you view this for Dino? I mean, he needs to fill a special teams coordinator spot. He needs to fill an offensive coordinator spot. He needs to fill some other things coming up here, D-line coach and whatnot. I mean, we're kind of in a place where why would a coach want to come coach at Syracuse if it looks like they're going to fire Dino if things don't work out? And having a press conference to talk about why you're keeping somebody is a very uniquely not great positive thing. How do you view kind of the program right now? Because as a coach who's had to decide where you're going to go and what decisions you're going to take, it's kind of a very unique place right now at Syracuse.
Yeah. That's an interesting question, and you pose some interesting things. I think number one, in terms of what Dino's going to be trying to do in terms of getting a quality coach or quality coaches now, I think he's got a few, like you said, on the staff he's got to fill, is he's got to be able to sell his vision to a coach that, hey, we're gonna get this thing, we're so close, and we're gonna get this thing over the edge. And that's the type of selling job he's going to have to do to get the right coaches in place to work with his staff and help the staff continue to grow and get better. In terms of where I see the program is probably where everybody else sees the program. I mean, we don't expect to be at the bottom of the conference standings. I don't know, in all honesty, if the expectation is to be at the top of the conference standings, but there is a medium of can Syracuse consistently be one of the top 4 schools in the conference for football? I think if that were to happen, I think everybody would be pretty excited as they're going down the stretch. They're playing meaningful football, I think that's a realistic expectation. I don't know if the realistic expectation is to be conference champions every year. I think if that's the expectation, I think those expectations are for Clemson. I think those expectations are for teams like Alabama. I think those expectations are for teams like Ohio State. I think the majority of college football, and Syracuse is right in there, is to be competitive in your conference, to hopefully be in the top 4 or so in your conference. And that would be, to me, you'd have a lot of happy Syracuse fans if that were the case. Now, where we're at the bottom of the standings and not making it to bowl games and those things, I would think everybody would agree that the expectations haven't been met. But once again, I really feel there's a trend after watching kind of this season that the trend is upward, not downward.
Yeah, and you'd like to hope that. I think defensively the issue is they're losing their whole line. They're losing Kingsley Jonathan. They're losing, the backups to it as well. Caleb Okechukwu, there's a hope for him, but really with no Kingsley Jonathan, no Josh Black, Curtis Harper's transferring, McKinley Williams in the interior, he's going. There's something to be said about that. And you're a former running back. You had your number 33. You didn't wear 44. You built your own brand. Sean Tucker and I spoke after the last game of the season, and that video is available on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and I suggest it. Y'all check it out because he's very, very honest about that. He's a man of not many words, but he answered my questions, and he said he doesn't want to wear 44. He wouldn't wear it if it was offered to him. He wants to build his own name. He's done that. He's etched that in history. Single season leading rusher all time with the amount of yards he had, passing Joe Morris and everybody else. So when you look at Sean Tucker and what Sean's done, at the end of the season, normally after every game he says, this is what I did. I'm proud of this. I'm not proud of that. After this game, he didn't talk about his stats. He questioned the coaching staff. He questioned their play calling multiple times in their post. What's your take on that? As Sean Tucker is clearly head and shoulders the kind of focus of this team's future, especially offensively, when he comes out publicly and addresses the fact that he's not really fond of the coaching staff and the play calling, what were your thoughts as a former running back at Syracuse?
Yeah, I think there's, I think if you have an issue or a problem with something, you go sit down and talk to that person. I'm not necessarily one that thinks you have the discussions publicly in the media or through the media. I know from a coach perspective, at times you have to try to deliver a message, and that's one way to deliver the message. But from the college player to the college coach, I don't necessarily agree with that personally. If you've got issues, go sit down with people and talk to people. Don't air out your differences. With a team, to me, I never wanted to be around a team and all the places that I were at. We talked about this ad nauseum. We don't need friendly fire. Like it's hard enough to do the job, and it's hard enough to try to win and try to take an organization and a team in the right direction and have everybody moving forward. There's going to be times when guys aren't happy because they're not playing or they're not contributing as much as they want, or they don't really agree with the role that they're in. So there's always, on every team, there's going to be something going on. But to me, the more you can contain those things and the more, like I said, I'm going to use the term friendly fire. We're going to be so much better if we don't have friendly fire. We don't need Syracuse competing against Syracuse. Yeah. We need to have Syracuse competing against our opponents on our schedule, or we need to have Syracuse competing with Syracuse when we have recruiting trips and we have people coming in. We're hosting kids and their families. We don't need to have all this negative connotation about what you believe or think. So personally, to me, I'm not a big fan of that. When it comes from a college athlete to a college coach, I'm really not a big fan when it's a pro athlete doing the same thing, but there's different liberties that those guys have. Like I said, if you've got an issue, go sit down with someone and talk about your issue in private. I don't think it's meant for, the masses outside, personally.
Yeah, and it is. It's a tough thing. I think Sean kind of knows where his place is, and in the sense of he knows, like, without him, Syracuse has nothing next year, and so maybe he's utilizing that. Maybe he's kind of positioning himself. I'm not sure, but he's been a heck of an athlete, and this team has gone through some struggles. I think the thing is here, David, he's given so much to Syracuse. What can Syracuse give him now when he's not up for Heisman? He's not up for running back of the year. He's not going to the college football playoff. He's not going to a bowl game. From his point of view, and with you being a former running back, could you look at this and say that maybe he could, and I'm not trying to speak for Sean, I'm just saying to paint the picture, could we be looking at a guy who's thinking, hey, I've done everything I could do here. I'm the single season leading rusher. I just broke a record that's been held for decades, and I'm not even being commended for it because, they're not looking to Syracuse and they're not looking to this school like they used to with Ernie Davis and Floyd Little and Jim Brown and whatnot. Could we be living in a place where Sean maybe thinks that he can't get to where he wants to get to if he stays here? I mean, it's kind of a very unique thing because I care about the players, I care about the team, I care about the community, and I'm looking at this trying to think to myself, what if Sean turns around and says, I've done everything I can do here?
Yeah, once again, neither of us can kind of speak for him and know what's going through his mind or anybody else's mind.
Right.
Obviously he had a very successful season. He's a lot of the reasoning why they had some success. If once again, if I were in his shoes, I would be thinking about what are the things I can improve on so I can help our team have more success next year. I guess I look at it this way. I don't look at it as, and once again, this is maybe just how I'm brought up and how I think of things, and maybe it's different from other people, but it's not so much, I did this for these guys. It's what more can I do to help our team have success? Because if our team has more success, guess what? He's going to have more success, and maybe he becomes a Doak Award winner or finalist, or maybe he ends up in New York for the Heisman ceremony. But that stuff doesn't happen without team success. So my thought for all the leaders on that football team coming back would be more, what do I got to do? What happened? Why did we lose these certain games? What can we do to help build the culture of the team? How can we assist in the recruiting process? I look at it more like that. We need our best players. He's obviously one of the best players. We need our leaders all pushing in the same direction. I hope that's where his mindset is, in all honesty. And knowing with more team success, he's going to have more individual success. That's just the way things work. If you're talking about awards or different things, or more notoriety from a national perspective, I mean, you just look at the ACC this year. I mean, when you look at coming into the season, I would expect that everybody thought that Sam Howell at North Carolina was going to be, a Heisman Trophy contender. North Carolina is going to be one of the better teams, this, that, and the other, and they didn't, perform as well, and you really don't hear about that guy. And then, like we said, we mentioned Kenny Pickett a little bit earlier. Yeah. He's a guy that kind of comes out of nowhere, and when I shouldn't say nowhere, I mean, he was a good player last year too, but, has tremendous success. The team wins 10 games, and, now that's a guy who's a household name. So I think there's a little bit of that. I think it's, for all the guys that are there at the Qs, whether they major contributors or whether they, play 2 snaps, how can we get better? That should be the overlying factor and overlying goal in all aspects of their college experience, in my humble opinion.
That coming from David Walker, former Syracuse running back and a coach who has been at the collegiate and NFL ranks, as well as, obviously at Syracuse, and notably for a very long time. David, I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything that you've brought to the table today. It's a lot of hard questions, and it's a hard time for Syracuse football. It's hard for you to think about. It's hard for me to think about. But we live in a world where, you talk about a player and how you were raised and, how can I get better to help my team get better? He had a ton of individual success. The team didn't have a lot of collective success. Now, as we go forward with name, image, and likeness, the final point that I want to make here that I, told you that we would be discussing, name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. These are two things that do the opposite of what you're talking about, because name, image, and likeness is you being out for yourself, having your own brand. The transfer portal is you not really having to work on a team. It's you having the ability to leave. Now, there are positives to this. There are players that can make money and help out themselves and their families. And a lot of these players I've spoken to throughout history don't come from the best neighborhoods and the best situations, and they have single-parent households. And so to be able to make money if they're going to give it back to their family is huge, and it's commendable. Syracuse has brought some terrific young men into the college football program that are just good people. And so I would anticipate that if they had the money, that they would, not be foolish with it. And then, the transfer portal, when a coach doesn't have to, a coach says, I'm going to be here for 10 years, and they leave a year and a half in, and players say, what the heck? There's that side of it. But Syracuse has 13 names in the transfer portal for, as we move forward to 2022. 13 names, over a dozen, and the name, image, and likeness side of things. How do you view that as a former player, name, image, and likeness, and the transfer portal in the whole grand scheme of this being a team sport, but these being very individualistic things, and the fact that Syracuse has not only have to recruit, 20 players to come in a season, but now Dino's got to make up for all the guys that are finished their eligibility, the 13 players who left, plus the guys he's normally recruiting. He might have to bring 40 guys onto this team. It's just it's a very unique world that we live in today that you as a player never had to really endure, which is the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, and a very me-oriented type of collegiate world that we live in now.
Yeah, I'll hit the name, image, and likeness stuff first. I think that's good. With today's society, I think there's a way. I know there's a way that a person can market themselves, benefit from name, image, and likeness rules, but still be a team player and be part of the culture of the team. I mean, that exists. And the reason I know it exists because professional athletes for years have been endorsed by this, that, and the other. And then I've seen those same professional athletes that have all their endorsements and whatnot be team-oriented and part of teams and that. So what's happening in college has been happening in professional sports forever. So I think they can coexist extremely well because I've seen it with my own eyes, been in locker rooms, and so I don't think that's an issue. I think it's something that's good for college football, good for the guys that can benefit, whether it's on a national stage or whether it's just locally for them. So that's my 2 cents there. The transfer portal is interesting. I like the fact that the NCAA has done something, and with both of these legislations, that try to help benefit the athlete. And it doesn't necessarily always, I guess, which side of the coin you're on, benefit the university, but it benefits the athlete, and it gives the athlete maybe to reevaluate their current situation and make decisions on, I won't be penalized if I try to change my setting because things aren't working out I thought they might. Yeah. So I think that's a benefit to the student athlete. It makes it much tougher for the college, but on the flip side, the college is going to probably get some people that want to come to their school as a result of them transferring from other schools. So I know it's got to be a very, very difficult slope to try to traverse as college programs, as you try to recruit incoming freshmen, but then maybe not know the other holes you may have based on kids making certain decisions. So that's got to be very difficult to deal with. But from a student athlete standpoint, I think the NIL and the transfer portal are good things because they allow the student to benefit and or they allow the student to reevaluate their current situation and the best decisions for themselves moving forward without a penalty. So,
and that makes a lot of sense. Are you concerned, though, that when you look at a team like Syracuse that we see 13 names in there right now? I mean, does that make you concerned? I mean, be it Syracuse, be it Oklahoma, be it, if we saw that many names, normally that happens, if there's a coaching change, I would imagine that. But does it concern you that the coach has stayed the same and there's 13 names in the portal?
I would say, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what is like normal with teams and how many kids make decisions. I guess the question would become, why are they making these decisions? Am I unhappy with, my playing time situation? Am I unhappy with the culture of the program? Am I unhappy with just because we're not winning? Or, once again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. People make decisions for a lot of different reasons. I guess the number 13 seems like a big number when you're talking about 85 scholarship guys on the team and maybe 13 are moving on. You wish those kids luck. Hopefully you're able to replace those kids either with incoming freshmen or other college transfers and you move forward. Once again, the reason why they're moving on could potentially be an issue or cause for concern. The number of people maybe could be cause for concern. I would hope that if I was in Manley Fieldhouse and working in that program, I would hope the concern is we're going to worry about the kids that want to be with us and not so much the kids that don't want to be with us, and we're going to find ways to move on and make our program stronger and better. So, yes, I could see there being concerns based on the number and based on potentially the reasoning, but I'm sure Dino and that staff are more worried about, hey, how can then we replace these kids and what do we got to do moving forward?
Yeah, coming here from David Walker on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal studios. David, I can't thank you enough. You spent extensive time with us today answering a lot of questions about the coaching world, the student-athlete world, the changes in collegiate athletics, how to navigate things that are going on, the uniqueness of where Syracuse football is, where it used to be. This has been a very full conversation. If this was a sandwich, it would be like a grand stacker. So, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being candid. I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I want to thank you for tackling some of this hard stuff because, you want to see Syracuse succeed. I want to see Syracuse succeed, and I just really do appreciate the fact that, you took the time and extensive time here today to really break some of this stuff down and to give your thoughts and your feelings on it. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to the fan base out there.
Okay, well, I enjoyed it. It's great to have the opportunity. I'm out in the Midwest, out here in Indianapolis area, so to be able to talk Syracuse football is a good thing. And you better believe I was proudly sporting my orange gear after we beat Indiana last week. So, I appreciate being on and enjoyed the conversation this morning.
And I got to say this is my exclamation point. December 23rd, Frisco Classic Bowl in Frisco, Texas, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Miami of Ohio takes on North Texas. and your son is, like you said, being part of the Miami of Ohio team. This is a huge game. It's a huge moment for your family. It's an early Christmas gift, and I know North Texas, and so it's going to be an interesting one for me to watch as both teams look to get above 500 here. So I just wanted to congratulate your family, your son. I'm sure you guys are going to have a great time out there, and I will be watching, and I just hope for the best for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to watching their team play one last time this year, and go Red Hawks, and then go Orange as well.
Coming from David Walker. David, be safe, be well, and I'll talk with you soon.
Okay, you take care, Dan.
Take care.
All right.
See you. That coming from David Walker here, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Wow. We tackled a lot. The thing is, there's so much to discuss. There's so much to unpack. There's so much to go through. And I value the fact that David did that, because these aren't easy questions to answer. It's been a tough time for Syracuse football, and trying to navigate and find the positive is important. It's crucial. You can focus on the problem or focus on the solution. We know there's problems, and now we have to find a solution. And I think that, I think there's a lot of things that I could add to the discussion if I sat down with Dino. I think there's a lot of things I can bring to the table and talk with him about. And then I'd love to hear what he would have to say. And I'd love to have that conversation back and forth. So, if that door opens, Dino, I'd be more than happy to sit with you in a room and sit with you with some of these alumni too and have the conversation, because you're here. They love the place. You're coaching the place. I grew up in this place, and I love this place. And I think having open dialogue with the opportunity for something to result from that positively would be huge. So I'm open if you are. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll wrap up today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora right after this. Two incredible guests joining us for the first full week of December. I couldn't be happier with how we got to start off this week. And we'll be back right after this inside the Cafe Kubal studios. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street, centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecabal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Here at Progressive Dental, we understand the importance of regular dental visits and preventive care. Cleanings and checkups are essential to good oral health. We have multiple locations in the Southern Tier, so come visit us in Binghamton, Enwell, Kirkwood, Montrose, and Norwich. For self-pay non-insured patients, we offer the Smile Plan, which covers all of your cleanings, x-rays, and exams for an affordable yearly price. Call 607-754-2273 or 607-754-CARE to make an appointment today. For more information, visit our website at progressivedentalny.com.
The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. They are the perfect place to get to know upstate New York a little bit better, support local in upstate New York, and have fantastic flavors that'll keep you coming back every time. I've been to a lot of restaurants throughout central and upstate New York and throughout this country, and I've never experienced any place like the Millhouse Market. That is why they are worth the drive every time. For their drive-up window, you can grab your food and go. To their general store and their indoor dining, with a bistro restaurant that changes every single weekend, so you get a different menu every weekend inside of the Millhouse Market. Ingrained in our community and ingrained in our taste buds, they are the place to go to. You can download their app at the Google Play or Apple App Store to have the Millhouse Market at your fingertips. The entire menu will be there for you. Everything that they have to offer. You can order contactless pay on the app and grab your food and go, like I mentioned before. Millhouse Market, 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. They're absolutely positively worth the drive every single time. Your sweet tooth will thank you, and your taste buds will never be happier. The Millhouse Market, local, appreciative, community-driven, and a place that has consistently gotten better with the times. Thank you, Millhouse Market, for all you do. With that being said, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, plenty coming up this week. More Cincinnati coverage. You're going to find that on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. Of course, a big thanks to Tony Hoffman, motivational speaker who went through his own personal battles, mental health and homelessness and substance use disorder to get to where he is today, opening a rehab place for others, as well as going to visit people in prison, and after he had spent time in prison himself. So paying it forward, caring about the community, and wanting people to know that they can help themselves, and there is a way to do it, and there's somebody who will reach a hand into that black hole, into the darkness, and try and help you out. God bless to the work that Tony's doing, and to David Walker, who spent a ton of time with us today, speaking on the many things going on with Syracuse football, college football in general, and where we go from here. What a big conversation with David Walker about everything that we're tackling, and about the history of Syracuse football. Tremendous, tremendous guests that you got to go back and listen to. You can go back and listen to these shows by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, TuneIn, and more. And, of course, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets that thing called life on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. And, of course, you can find us on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. So make sure you check us out in all of those venues. And, of course, a big thanks to all of our Central and Upstate New York partners, Cafe Kubal, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Carvel DeWitt, as well as Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Progressive Dental, Avicoli's, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, the Millhouse Market, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Lemoyne Dolphins, PB&J's Lunchbox, Honda City of Liverpool, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and Mother's Cupboard. Thank you for all that you do to help us to truly build up Central and Upstate New York. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins, and it's always fins up when it comes to Lemoyne. You can check out our specials during Dolphin Time every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora brings you a spotlight special with the Dolphins every week all throughout the month, and you'll have the opportunity to connect with the Lemoyne College Dolphins on the first and third Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time live with AD and DT, with Athletics Director Bob Beretta bringing us different topics every first and third Wednesday of the month. And every second and fourth Wednesday, we go into the Dolphin Dive, jumping into a conversation with a student-athlete, coach, and or staff member about their connection to the Lemoyne College Dolphins. Find out more by going to WakeUpCallDT.com and clicking on the Lemoyne tab, or going and subscribing to our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as going to LemoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner of the Marywood University Pacers. Pacer Pride is with us every single week on Fridays to round out the show. You can find out more about the Marywood Pacers by going to MarywoodPacers.com, and you can find all of our specials by going to the Marywood tab on WakeUpCallDT.com, as well as by going to YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT and clicking subscribe. The Marywood Pacers here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora throughout each month as we celebrate all that is Marywood, as I am a proud alum and love what they're doing and love where we're heading as we work to find success together. With that being said, find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. Thanks again to Tony. Thanks again to David. Plenty coming up with Cincinnati. And a big shout out to the Bearcats. And thank you to the College Football Playoff Committee for doing the right thing for once. And I'm excited about everything that is to come on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I will see you tonight with the Bills Mafia as Al Romano and I go off the rails with Al at Pizza Man Pub, 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. Cannot wait to do the show with Al Romano. He is a Pittsburgh national champion, won a championship with Tony Dorsett with the Pitt Panthers. So we're going to talk about the successes of Pat Narduzzi and Pitt winning their first ACC championship. We'll talk about Kenny Pickett. We'll talk about his history, as well as the New Year's Six Bowl that he has at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl against Michigan State. We'll also discuss the Buffalo Bills game as we pregame with you starting at 6 p.m. tonight, Monday, December 6th, with the Bills Mafia and the Bills supporters. Can't wait to be out there with you at Pizza Man Pub celebrating the Buffalo Bills Monday Night Football game against the Patriots, and so much more. Come out and hang out with us, including the College Football Playoff. Gene Waldron, what's up to you, my brother? I appreciate you, and I love you, and I hope to speak with you soon. So with that being said, we'll see you tonight at Pizza Man Pub at 6 p.m. to pregame. We got a ton of stuff Buffalo Bills oriented to give away to our loyal Bills fans, so come out and see us. You could get some awesome swag tonight and see an awesome broadcast with Al Romano. And then tomorrow morning, we will be live 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time from Cafe Kubal on 401 South Salina Street in downtown Syracuse with my cousin Fran Tortora, who has just signed her national letter of intent to play Division I women's lacrosse for one of the best teams in the nation, the Stony Brook Seawolves. A lot of great stuff coming up, and the next 2 times you'll see us will be live on site on location in Central New York, the community that I love so very much. We'll see you soon out in the community, and in the meantime, thank you to Cafe Kubal, all of my partners, to Tony and David, and to you, and above all things, thank you to my family and friends, and above that, thank you to God. Have a great day. God bless, no stress, do your best, and I'll talk to you soon.